All right, I found out that we're live, so that's a good thing. Um, Thank you for joining us on our Zoom platform and also on various social media sites. We're happy that you're here. We have an interesting topic that we never covered before. I usually talk about building and construction and some real estate stuff. We're talking a little bit about the legal aspects of things. What is an expert witness? I know people who watch TV, they see these Law and Order and courtrooms and all that on TV. So some of it may not be exactly what's happening in real life, but we're going to discuss it. And thank you for joining us. I know we changed the time due to circumstances, but we're here. So topic is, what is an expert witness? Defining expertise and qualifications. Let me breeze through some slides here real fast. This webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, LLC. I want to introduce myself, Lance Luke, and Martin Pea. Martin is actually the host, and I'm the co-host, although we switch roles once in a while, but kind of keep us on our toes. So before I get to discussing the first slide, some questions came in regarding what qualifies an expert witness, or what is a witness? So before I get into the discussion that we're going to talk about, I wanted to clarify a couple of things as far as the definition of a witness, period. So there are different categories of witnesses. So when we talk about an expert witness, that's someone who is highly educated, so to speak, and trained, and then can clarify technical issues and make it more understood without all this technical jargon. So hopefully that's what this person does. The other type of witness is a lay or an eyewitness. For instance, these types of witnesses don't have necessarily knowledge or skill or any additional training. They may have observed something like a car accident, like you're a pedestrian and you see a car accident. So like you may be a bystander. You're considered a lay witness or an eyewitness, and not considered an expert. There's also a fact witness, somebody who has personal knowledge of events or certain circumstances, and then there's usually in criminal cases, people who know about the person that they're going to testify either for or against. And normally that is in criminal action. But what I'm going to talk to you about is basically an expert witness in legal proceedings, but also in construction or real estate. So there's what's known as the Federal Rules of Evidence 702, and that's the federal law, and every state actually has their own similar law. Like in Hawaii, there's a Hawaii Rules of Evidence 702, which is similar to the federal. And you may ask, well, what is this Rule 702? It pertains to testimony of experts. So basically, if scientific, technical, or other specialized knowledge will assist the trier of fact. And the trier of fact is either a judge or it could be a jury in a courtroom, or it could be both. So the specialized knowledge will assist the trier of fact to understand the evidence or determine the fact in an issue. Okay? A witness qualified as an expert by these things: knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education. And a person that has these things may testify in form of an opinion. Now, I wanted to get this straight, that the expert is qualified by knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education. The rule and the law doesn't say that an expert has to have knowledge, skill, experience, training, and education. In other words, they don't have to have all of these qualifications. If they have one, they could be considered an expert and qualified. For instance, by training, if they have a master's degree or PhD in whatever subject, then that could qualify that person, regardless by their education, regardless of if they have any actual experience working in that particular situation. So the overview and importance: expert witnesses provide specialized knowledge that can clarify complex details for judges and juries, enhancing the credibility of the evidence presented. Now, hopefully, this is true, that whatever the expert witness is that has a specialized knowledge, he or she, hopefully that person can clarify complex details. If they can't, then they may not be doing their job. If the judge or jury doesn't understand the expert's opinion because it's too much technical jargon they're using, then to me, that's not really a good expert. So let's continue on. In cases where technical accuracy is critical, such as construction safety or premises liability, expert testimony often provides pivotal information and helpful information to educate the judge and the jury and even the attorneys involved as far as what the matter of the case is. There's a lot of information gathering, and in a case where there's a premises liability regarding somebody fell on stairs. It's not only saying that this person fell because the stairs were not built properly. Okay, there's a lot of backup information to prove that was the case. Person got hurt, you got to prove how the person got hurt and why did he get hurt. So the expert witness's role provides extensive work, including in a case of a building failure, assessing building compliance. For instance, was this condition following the building code, and is that why it became a construction defect? Hazard prevention, construction defect. It could be a repair and maintenance issue that was the contributing cause to the failure of a hand railing or a stairway and something like that. So there's a lot of background research and information gathering, investigation to get to the point of rendering an opinion. And of course, there's information gathering from maybe the person got hurt, or in the case of a construction claim, the homeowner's making a claim because the contractor didn't do something correctly. That is helpful too, but you can't depend on a layperson. You can use the information to give you, but you have to go further than that. An expert can't just listen to a third party and just base his opinion on what the third party said. They have to do their own investigation on their own. So how do we define an expert witness and the actual role? Specialized expertise beyond that of an average person. So in this situation, the average person is considered a lay person. They do not have specialized knowledge in the field of what the lawsuit or litigation is about. Does that expert have excellent specialized expertise, or good, or average, or below average? And you want to look for an expert that is excellent at the expertise and information gathering, also experience, right? Technical insight backed by years of experience. To be an expert, you can't just have graduated from college and all of a sudden now you're an expert. You have to have not only the education, but you have to have the technical experience and expertise. Okay, and usually in the field of construction, it's in the field as well as education. Okay, so if somebody just graduated, they have a degree in engineering, could they be an expert? Yes, they could, but their background is only in education. They have no experience working in the field as an engineer. And so that's the difference. How an expert is qualified and recognized by the court? Education, like I mentioned before, field-specific certification, such as, okay, you have a degree in whatever the subject matter is, but then you also have certification based on attending seminars, or you belong to a specific industry association, and through time and what you submit, you get certain designations from these associations and their certification that you can use in the field. For example, if you're an auto mechanic, you might have specialized training, and you have, certifications in computer diagnostics, or a certain brand of car that you're able to fix, like BMWs and Mercedes, and that's brand specific certification. And then also relevant experience in whatever field that you're testifying in, or the expert is testifying in. So if it's a real estate case, that expert should have experience in real estate and specialized knowledge. And it could be in real estate general brokerage, sales. It could be commercial real estate, selling or leasing. So things get really highly specialized, and that's where the expert comes in, that has highly specialized experience in education. Knowledge. Okay. An expert's qualified by the courts if he or she has knowledge and skill. Knowledge and skills kind of different things. You could have knowledge about something and then same set of skills, but sometimes they go hand in hand, sometimes they don't. And then a very important fact is that an expert can reliably analyze complex field specific issues. So an example would be you have part of a building that cracked and a piece of concrete fell off a 40-story building. So to a layperson, yeah, there was a cracked concrete and something caused a piece of concrete to fall off the building. An expert will actually go in, investigate, and come up with an analysis of why did this piece of concrete fall off, and what was the cause, and is there more investigation to be done? Okay, and this is where the technical specialized knowledge comes in. So in this particular example, that piece of concrete would be analyzed by the expert witness and determine why the piece of concrete fell off. Was it an earthquake? Was it something else? Did it have to do with poor repair and maintenance of the building? So here's what happened in this particular case. The building wasn't maintained properly. Water got in to a crack in the concrete. The water got into the reinforcing steel. The reinforcing steel corroded, okay, and it expanded so much that it cracked the concrete around it, and that caused the crack to become bigger, and then the piece of concrete got dislodged because of the corroded reinforcing steel, and that's what caused the piece of concrete to fall off the building. Now, that's kind of a simple explanation, but when you get further into it, like if it became a court case, right? Let's say somebody got hurt and they sued the owner of the building. The expert would have to come in and do all these testing and analysis, and the determination in rendering an opinion would be basically what I just mentioned, and that's a simple explanation. There's also a technical information that's provided, but to go into court and to state technical information, a lot of times the judge or jury or the arbitrator, mediator, they don't understand the technicalities of it. That's why the expert has to explain it in a simpler way, especially if there's a jury, for the jury to understand. But for the most part, it's understood that the jury is made up of lay people. Nobody on the jury, and this is in most cases, have specialized knowledge to understand what this expert's going to testify to. If it's all technical information, it's too technical in nature. Okay, so it's really important for that expert to be able to communicate properly and not go into too much technical jargon that people don't understand. And this happens a lot in the medical profession, where there's terms being used and people don't even understand what the doctor is saying. Okay, federal rules of evidence. They go the federal and state law is the governing law to qualify an expert witness. And even whether the expert can even testify in giving testimony or being accepted in court. So what happens is in a court case, the court, the judge is the one that decides whether the expert is going to be approved. And they usually call that approval certified. So let's say I'm an expert, I go to court, I represent one party, and it ends up not being settled and we have to go to court. So in court, I have to be appointed as an approved or certified expert in order to even, before I even say anything. So normally that's the procedure. I'll take you in these steps, what the expert does to prepare. So let's say an expert is hired by an attorney, and as you know, in arbitration, mediation, or litigation, there's two sides, right? There's a plaintiff and a defendant. And the plaintiff is the party who actually initiates the action, the lawsuit or litigation or filing of some complaint. And the defendant is on the opposite side. And so in most cases, the plaintiff hires their own attorney, and then the defendant hires their own attorney. So there's two attorneys involved, and each side would hire their own expert. Okay, so it doesn't matter what side the expert is on. There's a procedure that the expert witness follows. Okay, the first one is evidence gathering. You want to find out as much information as you can about the case, and then there's a lot of things involved in evidence gathering. And then you fast forward to that expert actually has all the evidence, they gathered all the evidence, they got everything they need, and now that expert is putting together a report. And that's the report creation step. And then there's the trial preparation. Now, most cases don't even go to trial. It gets settled out of court. So it never ends up in the courtroom. That's what happens in most cases. So this is basically in a nutshell all the steps. I can give you specific information on each thing if we have time to discuss it. So the presentation must clarify technical details for judges and juries, like I mentioned before. It must emphasize impartiality and clarity, avoiding jargon, and focusing on factual evidence. Now, what does all that mean? The expert has to be impartial, and although the expert is hired for one side, the expert really can't take sides and make up stuff to make his side look better or try to win the case. Okay. The expert has to tell the truth and give the facts without trying to be too technical or boasting or have a attitude like I'm always right and the other side is wrong no matter what. And focus on the facts, factual evidence. An expert witness cannot make stuff up. He cannot guess. He has to rely on real facts. So his or her opinion has to be based on actual facts or real facts based on research or what events happen in the actual event. Okay, once the expert prepares their report, it has to be available for both sides. So the expert is actually writing an opinion, writing an expert report for his or her side. but it's filed in court, and the opposing side gets a copy and they can scrutinize it, and that's where the other expert reads the report and tries to basically say that the other expert was erroneous in their opinion. Okay, so it could be a situation where two experts are basically arguing over, the facts. Like, it's interesting because the facts are pretty much clear, and you hear both sides of the story, right? So that's normally what happens. Okay, so I'm gonna give you some case studies that I was involved in, just so that you understand from my standpoint. And most of the cases that I was hired were mostly for homeowners or property owners, as opposed to let's say they made a claim against a homeowner made a claim against a contract. Most of the time, I'm hired by the homeowner and not by the contractor. Although there's situations where I was hired by a contractor rather than homeowner. So I try to be independent, because what happens is, if you become known as a plaintiff's expert, then already there's a kind of like a presumed situation where you're just hired by homeowners all the time, and the contractors who are suing the homeowners who are suing the contractors, you're never on the side of the contractor, so you already have a opinion made already, and because of the work you do. So that's sometimes what's happening. So in a particular case, regarding hazardous materials, there was a lady who had mold growing in their house because of roofing, and it was a condo association. And I got hired to inspect the walls, and there was, in fact, mold there. And I thought the lady, I said, how come you didn't notify your condo association or property manager? And she said she did, and she had this like triggering binder that had 2 years worth of emails and documented telephone calls and all that. And I was kind of taken aback, because at first I thought the lady didn't follow up, but she had all this evidence pointing to contacting the proper people who were involved, and no one responded to her. So she ended up winning the case. Another litigation case is a slip and fall case that happened at the international marketplace. And this is an interesting one, because there was a tourist, and this is an international marketplace that was an old international marketplace. It wasn't the new one, right? So the old international marketplace got torn down and the new one's built. So you won't see the same situation there. But there was this huge concrete area that was used for seating area for the shows that they had. So they had a big stage and they had a concrete area, and it was bare concrete, and tourists from the mainland was kind of walking fast and slipped and got injured, and so bad that she ended up in emergency, needed medical treatment for years. She hit her head, and I was involved with the expert witness, so I had to go there, inspect the premises and all that. This is a case where I had to look at the situation and determine whether the concrete area was safe enough, and was it suitable for walking. And what happened was, at the time of the accident, there was slight rain, and the person who got injured was walking fast, and he had slippers on. And so the other side said, the one of the person slipped. It was slippery, and they were wearing slippers, and they were running. And so it's their fault that they slipped. It's not the marketplace fault. And so I'm thinking, well, that's logical, right? So I after my inspection, I did my write-up saying that it was bare concrete, there was no waterproofing, there was no protection for people walking. And if you're a tourist, there's no expectation for the tourist to be, wearing steel-toed boots like they're working in construction. They're on vacation, right? So the case got settled. They never went to court, and they were like 10 people in the lawsuit, because the attorney for the lady that got injured sued everybody: the property management company, the site manager, the security guard company, the maintenance company. Everybody got named in the lawsuit. So when I went to the property to do my inspection, we had like 8 attorneys and 8 other people there. It was like a huge meeting, all watching me look at the concrete and take pictures and all. They even hired somebody to videotape, and they wanted to know what I was looking at, or they wanted me to comment, and I told them, I'm not talking to you guys. So that was an interesting situation. Construction defect, high-rise condo building. There was a building in Kaka'ako called Ko'olani. It was a 40-story high-rise building. There was a transition. What the transition is, after the condos built, the developer turned the building over to the condo association. So that's what's called a transition. And at that transition, I ended up doing my inspection, and I determined that there was $15 million, $15 million of defects. And of course, the other side said, you're wrong. There's no defects. And if there is, it's because of lack of maintenance, right? But how can a brand new building lack of maintenance? It's brand new. Come on, right? So the contractor was the biggest contractor in the state of Hawaii, Hawaiian dredging, and the developer was not from Hawaii, but from out of town. And what happened was, of course, the other party didn't agree. Other parties, it involved architects, engineers, a whole bunch of engineers, and the general contractor and subcontractor. So we had meeting after meeting, and they wouldn't agree to the 15 million. Of course, if you're the contractor, you don't want to claim that you're at fault on anything. But in a situation where there's a whole bunch of construction and they're building fast, and, there's mistakes, there's defects that are bound to happen, and it may not be the actual general contractor who did the work. Maybe they subbed it out to their subcontractors, but even so, they're still responsible as the prime contractor. All the subcontractors work under the general contractor. So this is a situation where I have to do, extensive inspections, walk around for days, taking pictures, document everything. And it ended up, the documentation ended up in a three-ring binder. And you hand the binder over to the other side and say, here's what we found. Uh, what do you have to comment? Uh, Eventually, it got settled, but it's hard when it's a brand new building, and when it rains, water comes into the building. Now, that cannot be lack of maintenance. It's some kind of poor design of construction. So it I forget how many different line items there were, but each item I had to prove that it was an actual defect. So for example, the swimming pool tiles were actually delaminating from the pool plastic. So I had to uh, take pictures and document and come up with my opinion as to what was happening. And the other party said it was due to lack of maintenance because the building didn't maintain the quality of the water, and because the there was chemical imbalance, the pH level was off, and because of that, that caused uh, the plaster, the grout holding the tiles to kind of deteriorate. That's why there was a problem. So, and that was interesting because at a meeting they brought that up, and I gave them a three-ring binder of every day the pool water was tested and the pH balance was exactly the way it should be. And after they looked at that, they didn't have any more defenses. So they agreed to cut a check to the homeowners association for $25,000. And the board president called me and said, hey, they're willing to cut a check for $25,000. That's great. I think I'm going to tell them yes. And I said, well, wait a minute, you're jumping the gun. And the board president said, why? I said, what if I told you it was going to cost $200,000 to repair? Why would you accept 25,000? He goes, oh, is it really going to be that? I said, well, I don't know. We got to get quotes from other pool tile companies. But I said, don't accept any checks or sign any agreements until we hash everything out. So, it became kind of technical at that point because he didn't understand. Construction defects, there's numerous single-family houses that I worked on as a expert witness, doing my inspection, looking at the way the contractor did stuff, and come to find out they didn't even follow the building plan, so that was wrong already. Construction defects, townhouse complex, this is on Maui, a brand new building where the paint was peeling off and water was going into these cracks because they weren't sealed, and the wood started to rot. And that's the defect. And then the contractor agreed to come and fix it, but nobody knew what they were going to do, how they're going to fix it. So I said, you got to get a write-up from them as far as agreeing that this is the problem and what the fix is going to be. Don't let them just go there and fix stuff when you don't know how they fixed it. What are they going to use to fix it? They're going to caulk it. Well, what kind of caulking are they going to use? What kind of product are they going to paint it after? Is there a warranty after they do the fix? You need to know. My latest expert witness cases, I got about 40 separate cases in Lahaina, Maui, to do a cost estimation on the cost to rebuild. So a house burns down. They want to know what it costs to rebuild because they're having an issue with the insurance company or whoever. So the homeowner can estimate on his own, but in the court of law, the homeowner can't be the expert witness. Okay, so that's where the expert comes in. Cost estimation, I think it was about a year ago or two. I was hired as an expert on a real property condemnation action. It was an apartment building in Waikiki on the Alawai that the city condemned, and they were willing to buy the property from the homeowner, but the homeowner said it was too low. So I was hired by the homeowner to come up with a cost estimation. Basically, the city said there's no value in the building, so we're only going to pay you land value. And my standpoint was, even if the building was run down, there's still value in the improvement. So I had to come up with a cost estimation of what it costs to turn the building into a usable building where they could rent it out. It was abandoned at that time. Numerous cases I worked on, landlord tenant, where the landlord was kicking the tenant out for non-payment of rent. And you would think that, yeah, the tenant should get kicked out because they didn't pay the rent. But then after talking to the tenant, they said, I didn't pay the rent because I had to use some of the money to fix the place up because the landlord refused to fix stuff after they were notified. So if you look at the picture, all those little square boards, those are boards that patch holes in the ceiling that were caused by rats. The building was overrun with rats, and the tenant, was eating, and then something fell from the attic space, and there was a rat that actually fell through, and now it's running around on the floor. Not a good situation. Slip fall, I mentioned about that. I had some other ones. I was involved in the Alamana railing collapse too. And it was a situation where I had photos showing lack of maintenance by the shopping center for 10 years prior to the railing collapse. And the attorney that hired me said, what are you doing taking pictures of the shopping center, from 10 years to the day of the accident? How did you know there was going to be an accident from a collapsed railing? I said, I didn't. I'm not psychic, but because of the work I do, when I go places and I see stuff, I take pictures and I post it on my Facebook account. They said, oh, okay. So that helped settle the case because it was proven that the shopping center was negligent in maintenance, repair and maintenance. So the conclusion is, if you're ever involved in a case, no matter what type it is, make sure the right expert is hired. And there's all different types of cases. There's not only construction and personal injury cases, there's all types. Like there's medical, accident, even cases involving fraud or internet stuff. Anyway, that's basically my talk about the expert witness. I like to see what you missed. We've given previous webinars. You can go to our website. What's coming up? We have other webinars coming up on different topics. We have our expert websites on a lot of different topics. We have our blogs, the webinars. As you know, you're on a webinar now. We have a bunch of books. I think we're up to like 52, book 52 right now. I just found out today that my book about the dog was just published. So that has nothing to do with buildings, although it's related because the fog and the air from the volcanic emissions can cause havoc to your house here in the area. We have a website, constructionexperts.now.site. Okay, so we're at the Q&A point. Let me see. There's a website, askbuildingexpert.now.site, that you can go to for webinar information, sign up, and publications and all that. So right now, let's open it up to questions. And hopefully I got the right answer. So Martin, we'll bring you on again.
Thank you, Lance. We just got a couple of questions that have come in to us and seem to be pretty good ones. So let me get to them now here. The first one is, what are some challenges that expert witnesses face when testifying in high stakes cases? You may have touched on some, yeah.
Oh, hold on a second. I'm trying to,
What you get?
well, I stopped share screen, but I see still on my screen.
Oh,
Anyway.
I just see you. I don't see the presentation. So
Oh,
you're good.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can you ask the question again? Sorry.
Sure enough, it's what are some challenges that expert witnesses face when testifying in high stakes cases? Have you had
Oh,
high
oh,
stakes?
okay. Um, I worked on a huge condo case where the opposing party tried to limit my testimony or even discredit me as an expert. So what happens is you get shot at basically. Whenever you're an expert, the other side tries to dredge up stuff against you and why you're not qualified to testify. And on that particular case, the opposing counsel filed 5 separate motions to disqualify me from an from being the expert. Um, and then also with that, they tried to limit my testimony. And so the attorney was laughing. Uh, the attorney that on our side was laughing and he said, man, they must not like you. They don't want you to talk. They're just filing all kind of BS stuff. Uh, throw mud against the wall, see what sticks to see if they can disqualify you, period. And then when it came down to the court saying that I'm qualified as an expert, they wanted to limit what my testimony was. So you got to have thick skin. You can't, because people are going to attack you, even in a deposition. And so prior to a deposition, they're doing that already. And then in a deposition, they're going to do the same thing. Rant and rave, throw stuff on the table, and accuse you of not being a proper expert or making stuff up. And so being an expert is not for everybody. You have to be able to have composure and you have to rely on facts. So while they're yelling at you and all that, saying you're no good, you don't know what you're talking about, you have to sit there and listen and maintain your composure. You can't stand up and start yelling back and saying you're full of it and you don't know what you're talking about and all that. So it's sort of like not what you see on TV. What you see on TV a lot of times when the expert goes on the stand to testify, they're yelling at them and all that. And, it's not really like that. Of course, TV is TV, right? Made for TV stuff. And I've never had an experience where it got out of hand and people were fighting and the judge has to pound his gavel and say enough and talk to the two attorneys in the back and stuff like that. Never had that situation, but yeah, there's some. I call it the high stake type, but it's only in my field, right? There's bigger cases. Mainly the bigger cases are criminal cases, and I haven't worked on a criminal case. Mine is all non-criminal. Hopefully, I don't get to that point. Interesting question. Thank you for asking.
Very good. Thank you, Lance. The next one that's come up here is, how do expert witnesses maintain objectivity, especially if hired by one side of a case?
Well, as an expert, we're held to a higher standard, and we're hired to rely on the facts. So objectivity is key, and we have to go by what the facts at hand are. We cannot start making stuff up, because once you make stuff up and you try and guess and all that, then you're deviating from what your role is. And even if you don't like the other side, or you think the other side is wrong, you know, you have to be objective, and you have to stick to whatever the facts are, or the opinion that you gave. So, for instance, on a construction defect litigation case, I look at the condition, I render my opinion, and I got to stick to the facts. And even if the other side comes up with, and it's, you know, the other side hires their own expert, and their expert doesn't agree with what I'm saying. And so you got these two experts that don't agree, but how can that be, right? There has to be some kind of agreement. So sometimes it gets really interesting, where the other expert says, I'm wrong in my opinion, and I say, well, what is your opinion? And they just make stuff up, right? Sometimes. So you get into that situation where how can you, it's hard to argue with somebody who made something up. I would have to prove that that person is not relying on the fact, but is just relying on some opinion that he pulled out of thin air. And then once I do that, then the other expert doesn't look too good. It's mainly a contest of experts. Who's a smarter expert, or what expert is going to rely on the true facts and render his or her opinion based on the facts, and not making stuff up. Eventually, it comes out where the other expert relied on some wrong opinion, or just made stuff up to make his side look good, and the court can see through that. So hopefully, you know, the facts prevail and the truth prevail. That's what the bottom line.
Okay, Lance, thank you.
Sure.
Let's get one more question so far here. And it's asking, in what other types of legal cases beyond construction or real estate is expert witness testimony crucial?
Well, for example, in the medical field, it may or may not be related to premises liability, but personal injury. So I've seen situations where people got involved in car accident, and they have to bring in the expert, which is a doctor, to testify. Or it could be a malpractice case. It could be insurance fraud situation. That's a different kind of expert, forensic expert. It could be a criminal case where they bring in experts in. So in any type of case, you could have an expert depending on what the kind of case is, right? So, let me see. Also, aviation or marine, like somebody got injured because the airplane, there was too much turbulence or something. So that's a specialized expert in that. So almost every situation there could be an expert. Sometimes experts are hard to find depending upon how specialized the situation is. But in the field of construction and real estate, there's a lot of different experts that can be relied on, and you just got to find the right person, find the right person for that particular case. They have to get along with the attorney. They have to get along with either the plaintiff or the defendant, and be able to communicate. That's why a lot of people, although they have the criteria to be an expert witness, they don't want to. Maybe they can't communicate properly. They can't talk, because you got to be able to go to court and speak in front of the attorneys and the judge and even the jury. The last jury case I was on, you wait outside as an expert. You got to wait outside. You can't sit in court and hear what's going on. So you're waiting outside hours and hours. And when it's your time, you have to be there, be ready. And they call your name, and then you go in, and the court's all quiet, and the jury is all staring at you. Right? Well, who is this guy? What is he going to talk about? And the two attorneys, one for each side, basically gets to ask you questions, right? Examination, they call that. There's a examination by the attorney that's on your side, and there's a cross examination by the other attorney. And then if the judge feels like it, the judge can ask the expert question. And so they can do that. And during the whole time, every person in the jury box is looking at you and listening to what you say and taking notes and all that. So you gotta be able to be a good public speaker, and you gotta be able to speak in a language where the jury can understand. And a lot of times I don't get to say what I want, because the questions that the attorney's asking us pointed questions. And it's requiring, like, I can't just go on the stand and say, oh, you know what, this contractor is dumb, he didn't do things right. I can't say that. I gotta go up there and listen to what questions they ask me and then give the answer. I'm not free to go just say anything. So it's a little different than what you see on TV. You got any other questions, comments?
No, Lance, that's about it, but maybe you can share a little bit of what's happening the next couple of days for you.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you reminded me. So for those of you who are in Hawaii, there's a building expo. It's called the Building Facilities and Property Management Expo that Martin and I are going to be there. We have a booth. It's going to be at NBC Neil Blaisdell Center tomorrow. Starting, it's going to be 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday, and I'm giving a seminar on Wednesday at 8 a.m. Get up early for that one. And that one is, the subject is hiring a project manager, what to look for and what the project manager does. And I'm giving away a free book to all attendees. And the book is titled Why Hire a Construction Manager. And then the next day, Thursday, I'm giving a seminar at 2 p.m. Same place. The title of the seminar is Avoid the Contractor Ripple. And the same, the title is the same. I don't know, it may have changed, but the topic is is pretty much the same. Dealing with contractors. And come to our booth, we have stuff that we're giving away. We have $100 restaurant gift certificate you can enter to win. And if you want to meet us in person, drop by. We have, if you have questions pertaining to building or construction or anything, stop by a booth. We'd be happy to talk to you. And you have to sign up at tradeshowshawaii.com. There's no specific sign up to attend the webinar. Once you sign up for the trade show, they give you a badge and you get to enter. Now, this is not open to the public. It's open to industry specific people. So if you're a property manager or property owner or a condo board member, or if you're in the industry, a contractor, or something like that, or a real estate agent, you're invited to attend. It's not open to the general public, and they don't allow children either. So I think you have to be 18. Something, I don't really know the rules, but it's free admission, and there's over 300 vendors there. I was there this morning setting up, and it's gonna be fun and exciting because the vendors are, you know, roofing contractors and general contractors, security companies, and so forth. So, you know, stop by. We'll be happy to see you, and you can ask us questions and get to meet with us. So, Martin, any last comments?
No, good update. Now I know what you do as an expert witness.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so on behalf of Martin and myself, Ask the Building Expert, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, post to social media, and we'll be glad to respond to you when in the next couple of days. I know we're going to be busy attending the expo, but we'll get to it. So we'll sign off for now. Thank you very much. Mahalo. So Martin, I can't. Oh.